For us Jews, Caliphate will be a big bless. Freedom of religion, economy. We're going to pray to Allah the whole day. We're going to learn the Talmud. So why not? All rabbis admit that in Iraq, the Jews had the greatest time. So there was no reason whatsoever for the Iraqi Jews to leave Iraq and go to Palestine.
So that actually, even though the Zionist entity was already created, Jews still felt more affinity to the lands and to the homes that they had in the Muslim world.
That's why in order to persuade them to leave Iraq, you had to kill them. So the Zionists appointed a special terror squad. It's called commandos.
How is it that this population of 2 million Muslims has been left by a number of 1,000 times greater Muslims around the world to face this genocide alone?
How can you sleep, dear Muslim leaders, at night when you see that people have been annihilated? Such a good people, they did only good for Jews. My father used to curse the day that he came to Palestine. If the Muslim neighbors would have not saved the Jews, it could have ended up with thousands of casualties. Zionist Jewish movement that has no any source to be supported from the Torah. The Torah are completely forbidden. All the rabbis till the Second World War, they were saying that this movement will bring the destruction of the Jewish people.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another podcast by Narrative House. Today I'm very excited to have with us Rabbi Haim Sofer. Rabbi Sofer has been an outspoken critic of the Zionist entity for many years, and I recently had the pleasure of also giving a talk with him at an event a couple of months ago. Today we're going to be looking at a number of issues related to the current crisis in Gaza, the genocide, and also explore issues around this topic. Without any further ado, welcome Rabbi Sofer.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, Rabbi. So I'd like to start by asking you about your origins. I believe you originate from Iraq, and your family were actually in Iraq before the Zionist entity was established.
My family, yes, my family is my parents who were Iraqi born, and they've been there. According to my information, hundreds of generations. Maybe they live with the Muslims there, but since the Muslims have released Iraq through the Caliph Omar al-Khattab alayhi salam, and that's where we're coming from. The way how they reached Palestine is very painful history, but if you want, I can touch it before.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Iraqi Jews didn't want to leave Iraq. They were very happy in Iraq. They had a lot of businesses there. They had outstanding relationships with their Muslim neighbors in an amazing, enormous way. It was unbelievable. All rabbis admit that in Iraq, the Jews had the greatest time. Even among the Arab world, they had a great time in general, but in Iraq it was outstanding. So there was no reason whatsoever for the Iraqi Jews to leave Iraq and go to Palestine, fighting another people, displace them and take their land and tell them from now on it's belong to us and just go away from here. They were not interested whatsoever. So how has that happened that 130,000 Iraqi Jews left in few months? How's it happened? So the Zionists knew that they're not going to leave. So the Zionists appointed a special terror squad. It's called commandos. The terror squads were good trained, and they went to Iraq with special uniform. They were dressed like Arabs, and they started attacking the Jewish synagogues, Jewish restaurants, Jewish gatherings, like before Shvios. That's a holiday where we used to go to the Dijlat River to pray there.
Yeah.
They dropped bombs on us. They dropped bombs in the restaurants and synagogues. They killed few people, and it was escorted with propaganda, with papers in Arabic. Jews, the Muslims are changed. It's finished. The good Muslims is finished. They're here because there is a Zionist state on its way. It was in 51. 51, so the Zionist state was
already established.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now the Muslim would like to revenge what the Zionists did for the Palestinians. You have nothing to look here. Just leave and run away. At the first wave, 10,000 left. They were very scared. But then people saw that things are becoming relaxed. No, but they were not interested to leave their property, and they were good relations. The Muslim neighbors told them, stay, it's not us. Stay.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Don't leave. But then after a few months of relative quietness, suddenly there was another wave of explosions and attacks. And then the Jews, and then again a propaganda for these naive Jews, the Muslim here to finish you off, run for your life.
Yeah.
Again, there was registration, yes, and the Iraqi police were helping to register the Jews, any Jews that want to get out. We didn't understand. The people, the Muslims in Iraq didn't want the Jews to leave. But the government were offering free registration very quickly. You can secure for yourself a place in the airplane. So what's going on? Who is against who?
Yeah.
So after that, there was a CIA officer which wrote a whole book about it. How is it happened?
That's right.
It was a set up plan between the Zionists and the Iraqi government. His name was Nur al-Said. His name. Nur al-Said, he made a deal with Ben Gurion. Ben Gurion told him, give me the Iraqi Jews. Take the property. Take their stores. Take the bank account. Confiscate their money. And we're talking about property and money in the bank account which worth the billions of dollars. Everything you take for yourself. You just give us the Jews. That's why they turned their face to the other side when they heard of all these attacks, because then the suit that came from the Zionists. They didn't even something happened is they captured one of the Zionists, is the judge which captured him. The police brought him to the judge. The judge said, with this case, it belongs to another district court, and at that then the district was judge has released him as Zionist Jewish terrorists that have Jewish blood on his hand.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
and this is the same thing that they did in countries like Egypt, I know as well.
They did it in Egypt. In Yemen, there was a sheikh. He used to come when Jews like us came to make sure that Jews are okay there. He used to come and tell me, why did Jews with the Zionists are coming and offering money to me that I should send my people to attack them, ensuring that they should run away?
Really?
He was asking them, why? What's wrong with the Jews? What wrong that the Jews will remain in Yemen?
Yeah. So that actually, even though the Zionist entity was already created, Jews still felt more affinity to the lands and to the homes that they had in the Muslim world.
There was no reason why to leave. The Jews heard already that the state of Israel was established with murder, ethnic cleansing, and they understood. Every guy which have a small brain, a little brain, understand that this conflict will never end. Till the Palestinians will get back their land. It will never end. So why should you have to put your head in a sick bed? Yeah. In order to you could have only one way ship in, import these Jews to Palestine, through terror. And that's what they did. They did it in Libya. They did it in Tunisia. In Morocco, there was a rabbi that they were asking the Zionists, asking him, take your oral community and bring them to Palestine. He said, no, I don't want. I'm happy here. Few days after, he was stabbed to death.
Really?
He was murdered.
So
he was murdered.
The Zionists
said, you see?
They were committing terror against...
killed the rabbi. No, the Muslim killed the rabbi. And he ran away. Yeah. They killed the rabbi. And then they benefited from this vicious murder by taking all his community back to Palestine. Yeah. And even though 10,000 Jews left in Iraq till 77.
Okay, so a very long time after.
Yeah, because and where did they live to? They left Iraq, but they left to England. They didn't want to go to Palestine.
I see. Okay.
Because they heard the news, wars and relentless wars. Why? It's not belong to us. Just leave us alone. And they went to England because they had already a lot of them had relatives there. Yes, this. So when my parents were forced to leave, they left. The owner of the landlord that used to rent out the apartment, he used and he cries, says, "The blessed go away from me. Why do you leave?" They said, "We can't leave. We can't stay here alone." Everyone, they were crying. They were hugging each other. Yeah. My mother always used to. Once a year, we used to sit on a table. We used to talk about. My mother used to talk about with longingness about Iraq.
Yeah. So tell me about those stories in Iraq before the Zionist entity, before they came.
So the neighbor, this landlord, used to come to bring a sheep every Pesach. Pesach is one of the most expensive Jewish holidays. Okay. It's a lot of expensive meat and matzah. Matzah is a special bread that you have to bake, very expensive. Okay. The Muslims knew that they used to bring for us potatoes, dates. Dates is a lot of dates in Iraq. Yes, cucumbers, tomatoes, yes, anything that you need, anything that you knew that it's kosher, which the Jews could have eaten. They would not bring meat because the meat had to be slaughtered in the Jewish way. And they brought the whole sheep. This is for yourself. Chud, Hada Mishanak, Mishan al-Eid. This is for the holiday. And I told one time for the Palestinians, I wish to have a Muslim neighbor. I would receive a sheep from him. They were laughing. It was great. That's one thing. My father used to tell me. My father served in the Iraqi army for 5 years.
Okay.
If he didn't feel any difference with Muslims, they slept in one room. They used to travel to take a walk together. They used to eat together. It was the kosher food, the Muslims. It was the halal, and they were like brothers. They used to go to tombs of holy people, holy Jewish people, together with the Arabs. They used to ride on horses. It was a great life. It was, and my father used to tell me, "You don't understand what was Iraq. He never lived there."
Yeah.
My father used to curse the day that he came to Palestine.
Really.
Yeah, what did he receive? What did he receive?
So it was all through this fear that they managed to get people to go. But actually, people were very attached to these lands.
Exactly.
And I remember an example that you mentioned in the talk that we gave a couple of months ago about a situation when some Iraqi officials were working with, I think, the Nazis at the time, and they were trying to scare the Muslims and even maybe round some Jews up as part of the Nazi campaign. And the Muslims actually defended them.
Oh, so you're talking about the Farhud. The Farhud was a small group of Iraqi soldiers that were that were affiliated with the Nazi ambassador of Germany, which had a radio station in Arabic. He knew very good Arabic. He was to adapt the methods of killing Jews in Europe to Iraq. So he had a very, very hard work because the Muslims didn't want to kill the Jews. Yeah. They loved them. So how could it be with good? So he worked very hard. He paid. He did the work. So there was a small group of Iraqi soldiers that were influenced by him, and they went to conduct the Farhud. So if the Muslim neighbors would have not saved the Jews, it could have ended up with thousands of casualties. And alhamdulillah, it's only ended up only with 100 casualties. And the Muslim neighbors saved in thousands of Jews. Then the Farhud ended up in a way because they saw that every Muslim house which Jews been hosted, they can't burst in, they can't go in to kill the Jews. So many of them just gave up. They said it doesn't go, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a story, but who's giving the witness? Who is a witness? I was born only because my mother was saved by a Muslim neighbor. This landlord that used to bring the sheep every day, when these few soldiers burst into his house, the landlord was living in the ground floor, and the Jews, my mother with another 14 members of the family, lived on the second floor. And when they came to say that they saw the landlord standing with a sword, they said, "Please step aside. We just want to get the Jews there." He said, "What are you talking about? This is my children on my dead body. On my dead body, I'm not going to allow them. I love them. This is my children." And they were asking again kindly to get in. Said, "Be careful, because I'm going to fight with you." So they left. And that's what happened not only in this house. My mother told her that by the cousins it's happened. The same thing.
Same story, yeah.
Yeah, same story. But I told her, how many cases was like that? She said, "Haim, from what I know, tens of cases. But there was so many cases later on. She went through that many cases. Who was saving who. And simply the Muslims have saved the Jews. The Muslim doesn't need my recommendation on them, but what they need to say that I'm saying to them one big thank you for saving my mother. Thank you for hosting us for so many years in Iraq. Our religion was flourishing. By the way, this landlord, I feel very sad, and I don't know his name, how to go to pay thank you for his relatives.
Yeah.
He used to take the whole family with 2-3 wagons with bread, with kosher bread. He used to buy them on his own expenses because they were very poor. It used to take them to Najaf and Karbala. Why to Najaf and Karbala? It was a very holy sites for the Shiites. He was a Shiite. He was not a Sunni.
Yeah.
And he used to take them, and he used to take them to the Euphrates River. He used to take them to take a walk there. It was a very big market there to buy interesting things. They used to buy and used to pay it all.
So it wasn't even that there was what people call tolerance. It was actually much more than that.
It was brotherhood.
Yeah,
tolerance means like
you tolerate. I'll leave you, but I won't harm you. But actually, this is
to leave.
a lot closer and a lot more friendly and a lot more helpful as a society. That's
why in order to persuade them to leave Iraq, you had to kill them.
Yeah, you have to go very far to do
that. You have to use harsh methods to convince these Jews that it's not to live.
Yeah.
And only after a few synagogues were blown up and restaurants and this, then they convinced the Jews. But then when the Jews came there, they didn't forget the good days.
Yeah.
Because how many bad days they had? It was only this, and all the Iraqi Jews, they were aware to the deal. This is dirty deal that Ben Gurion did with Nur Said.
Yeah.
Later on, they knew. I told my mother, if it was so good, why did you leave Iraq? So they said, this dog Ben Gurion bought us. Ben Gurion Strana. She used to tell me, Ben Gurion Strana. Is that Strana in Arabic? Bought us off. It's so painful. There's so many stories my father used to tell me. How the way he used to was to the business, friendship, talking, going, taking a walk. It was families. It was the Jew used to go to the synagogue to pray, and the Muslim went to the masjid to pray. And it was, after they were finished praying, again back to the business, back to the friendship. And this went on and on and on and on. But that was not only in Iraq.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah,
in Yemen also it was like that. In Libya, in Egypt. Yeah. In Egypt, it's very interesting. There's old people, there's 20, 30 old Jews in Egypt that refusing to leave.
In Egypt?
Yeah, they don't want to leave.
They're still there now?
They're still there now.
Oh, okay. I know they're in Iran as well, and there's some in Yemen that still haven't left as well.
It's a different story.
Yeah.
Iran, you have 25,000 Jews.
Yeah.
Yes, just lately, there was qualified 25 rabbis there. The Judaism is flourishing in Iran because the government have a policy. Not only that the government has a policy, the people in Iran are very friendly to Jews.
Yeah, so what you're showing is that it's not just a policy of government, it's actually the Muslims themselves had this relationship.
Not that the Muslims in Iran would have killed the Jews and only scared what something stopping them is the government's harsh restrictions. No, they live together. I saw myself a video that one of the tour carter brought from Iran. How is the businesses are flourishing there? They're so happy. They building, they expanding. You know that the Iranian Jews, they don't, in order to keep their spiritual institutions, colleges and all these things, they don't go to Europe, to America, to England to collect fundraising for money to keep these institutions. They have enough rich people to pay their own institutions.
Okay.
And no, how could it be?
Yeah.
You have to say that is a full freedom of religion and full economical religion, and that's that the Iranian government are sticking to what the caliphate used to do.
Yeah, and all of this started, if we go back, when there was a Spanish Inquisition, the big migration into the Muslim world, North Africa, the Ottoman period.
Yeah, but you have to touch the Spanish golden era.
Yeah, that's right. So So talk to me about that.
So we have to first of all start with the Caliphate Bet Umayyah that was about 90 years existing. It was replaced there was a gap of about 40 years of the fitna. The fitna was like the civil war for 40 years. Even though that was unstable years, Jews didn't suffer because the Bet Umayyah and the Abbasids were not targeting the Jews. They knew that this is not a side that you have to fight with. Eventually, the Abbasids was stabilizing their control for 500 years. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about the great 500 years of Harun al-Rashid, al-Mu'tasim, al-Mamun, and all this. And what about Abu Safa? Abu Safa, the first Caliph of the Abbasids, he was a great Caliph for us. He was a great Caliph for us. When Bet Umayyah was defeated, they had only one descendant that left was survived. It was his name Abdurrahman I.
Yeah.
He fled from Iraq through Egypt, and then he took a boat, and the whole way we went to Spain. He came to Spain. He went to Spain at about 756. He created his own Caliphate of Bet Umayyah. But Spain was captured by the Muslims at 711.
Yeah.
There was 40 years that was not stable, yeah? The Jews were suffering from the Christians at that time till the Muslims came of a terrible way. A lot of blood libels, a lot of problems, a lot of forced change of the religion. So when the Muslims came to Spain, they crossed the Gibraltar water strait from Morocco. It was mainly the Muslim army was very small. It was they brought the barbarian.
The
Berbers. The Berbers from west Morocco.
Yeah,
they're the one who did the job for them.
That's right.
That was the big problem. The Muslim made a big mistake because the Berber because they believed that since they conquered Spain, they should be the one who should run it. But the Muslims told them, no. We're going to run it for you. You're going to receive full rights, but we're the boss. And so Abdurrahman I, when he came, he reached 756 Spain. He was accepted as he's the descendant of the Bet Umayyah. So they gave him the right to be the Caliph. And he was establishing the it was like a competition between the Abbasids in Baghdad, which they established their, the Caliphate the Caliphate of Bet Umayyah was in Damascus.
That's right.
Yeah, and then the Abbasids decided to change the capital back to Baghdad, which was created. Baghdad was created the city was created by Omar ibn Khattab, as you know, as when he conquered Iran. He decided that that's his place, but the Bet Umayyah removed to Damascus, and then it was brought back the main capital of the Muslims into Baghdad. So there was a little bit competition between the two caliphats, and he was a very powerful caliphate, Abdurrahman I, and then he told the Jews, "You can be welcome." Truly, the whole Spain was, the whole Iberian half island was conquered by the Muslims, besides parts of North Spain.
Yeah.
And then he called the Jews, "You can come here. You're going to enjoy from freedom of religion and everything." Not only that, he took some of the rabbis as advisors and economical advisors. Some of them went so far to be like secretary of state, like foreign ministers. Some of them were by the time of his great Einikel, son. How you say it in English? Grandchild.
Yeah.
Great-great-great-grandchild, Abdurrahman III. He had a minister that called Shmi el-Anugi. This was Abu Najdallah in Arabic. It's called. He was a great person. He kept two posts by the Muslim regime. He was the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense. He used to run the wars and make peace deals with the Christians in the north. In the time of the king of the Caliph Abdurrahman III.
That's interesting.
And he was also at the time of Hakim II, because Hakim I was before Abdurrahman I. You have to know that Abdurrahman I, second, third was not in one. There's a lot of gaps between them.
Okay.
It was not like a grandfather, son, and a grandchild. No.
But this wasn't just individual people who had high positions. As a general community, the Jews prospered in Spain.
The prosperity, first of all, I'm talking about the way how the Muslims established their caliphate in the Bet Umayyah.
Yeah.
Then the Jews moved in the hundreds of thousands into Spain.
Okay.
Economy, they were the richest people. People had palaces.
So where did they move from? Europe?
They moved from France, and they moved from North Spain, which they suffered so much religious persecution.
I see.
And the Caliph wanted to give them an incentive. Come, here you're going to be free. Economically and religiously.
So they were inviting refugees.
Yeah.
Not trying to stop the boats. They were trying to encourage refugees.
You'll never find a Muslim state that refused allowed Jews in.
Yeah.
When Jews were deported from Germany, France, Spain, there was a lot of countries, I don't want to say the names, that when the Jews came in, said, just keep walk. You're not welcome here. Just keep walk. When they came to Morocco, they opened the door right away. Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, and Palestine. I will speak specifically about Palestine, how many times they opened the door for the Jews, but we're talking about this. So the Jews, the golden era started from 756. It's ended up at 1011, 1012. 1012 what happened. The Berber again came back. They were not happy that for 250 years, 300 years, from 711 till 1211, for 2011, 300 years they waited to be in charge, and they were not. So they invaded again Spain, and they destroyed the main city that was called, Cordoba. Cordoba was the capital of the Islamic Caliphate in Spain.
Okay.
It was completely destroyed by the Berber. So the Jews fled with the Muslims to the south of Spain. That was into Malaga. Malaga was the capital city of Granada. Granada was, by the way, was the last part of the Caliphate that remained for many years. Because you have to understand that at that time, Spain was divided of 23 small kingdoms.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about the golden era, it was about these 300 years of 711 and 2011. That was the golden era we talk about. Not that after that we didn't have a good time. We had a great time, but it was already divided to 23 countries. When it was one Muslim Caliphate, the prosperity which we had, it was enormous. Jews had palaces. They had servants, palaces, and in the government, all the banking system of the Islamic Caliphate was run by Jews. The way how the Muslim gave us so much power for the Jews. And what about the religious autonomy? I didn't even talk about it. Amazing. Whatever, you name it, my friend. That's why the Jews are the golden era. Can you have anything? When you ask a Jew, what about the bad word about the golden era? No, I don't have, unfortunately.
That's true, because there was even Rabbi Shmoli or something, I think his name is. And I think someone caught him on an old clip saying that the golden era for the Jews was in Islamic Spain. And this man is a pro-Zionist, but he couldn't even make this claim.
It's impossible to find bad word about.
So what happened when the Spanish Inquisition happened?
So in 1212, yes, there was the Alfonso XII. This was a Christian king from North Spain. The reconquest started at the time that they divided Spain of 23 kingdoms, and so the Christians have saw that here is a proper time to get rid of the Muslims. So slowly they started fighting every kingdom for itself. And since they were not unified, they couldn't fight properly to keep their area, the central and south Spain. It took time. At 1212, the Christian Spanish king Alfonso XII, he was able to capture most of Spain from the Muslims.
Okay.
Where the Jews went, they fled together with the Muslims because they knew what the history they have. Where did they fled? They ran away not to South Africa, to Northern Africa. They fled to Granada. Granada was the only southern part by the edge of southeast Spain that held from 1212 till 1492.
Okay.
Means we're talking about 280 years.
Long time,
Such a small area, but was very powerful.
Yeah.
The Spanish military was attacking it for hundreds of years, and they couldn't take it.
Wow.
So when they conquered Granada in 1492, they decided to punish the Jews, that the Jews was siding with the Muslims.
Okay.
So that's what they kicked him out of the country. They told him, you untrusted, you were all the time we're talking about 711 till 1492. How many years is that? So we're talking about
800 almost.
800, almost 8 years.
Yeah.
And the Muslim with the Jews were unified all the time. So that's why they kicked him out and said, well, if you don't change your religion to Christian, So 300,000 Jews decided to leave Spain and not to convert to Christianity. Where did they live? We're talking about a few hundreds to Netherlands, a few hundreds to England, and some of them a little bit, a small amount to France. But 290,000 went to the Muslim countries. Why? Because they had a shared history. Yeah. They knew what was waiting for them. They went to Morocco, Algeria, Tunis, Libya, Egypt. Yes, Egypt as well. Iraq and Palestine and Turkey. All these countries opened the doors for them. That's why in Iraq, you have Iraqi Jews that their origin is from thousands of years there, like me. But then you have Iraqi Jews that I ask them, where are you from? I'm only lived in Iraq for 400 years. I'm from the Spanish Jews that came there 400 years ago.
Yeah.
You can see the difference.
So they can trace their history back.
Yeah. You can trace their history because there's a different names. You can see who are they, and the reason why they left two Muslim countries because they knew they're going to enjoy freedom of religion. They will not have to go harsh taxes. Taxes were fair. Well, you have to understand that, first of all, who was the one that was at all that decided to tolerate Judaism? Where it started? It didn't start from the Caliphate from Ben Umayyah. It didn't start by Abu Safa from the first Caliph on Abbasides. It didn't start. It started from the Caliph Umar ibn Khattab. When he conquered Persia, he was winning the Sasani the dynasty. He decided to set up a rule what you do with the minorities: Christians, Zoroastrians like idol worshippers, and Jews. So he decided that those minorities will pay tax and will enjoy from a protection and mercy from Islam. And that's part of the Islam religion.
This is the religion, yeah.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, I always say a famous story in the Quran about a time in Medina when there was a Jew that someone had accused of stealing. So a Muslim from Medina had stolen the goods and he left it with the Jew and he said to him, I'm leaving this for safekeeping. But the Jewish man suspected that this wasn't right, that this was some kind of trick. And he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he said to him, this man has left me this goods, but I didn't take it, but I'm suspecting this is stolen goods. And the Prophet ﷺ was told by the Muslim, no, this was the Jew who stole the goods and he's trying to blame me. And then Allah intervened and he revealed verses to say, actually, these were stolen by the Muslim, and he tried to implicate the Jewish man. So he actually came to the defense of the Jewish man in the Quran, and it set a standard.
So that's a tradition where we have.
Yeah, so there's justice.
Jews.
Justice, i.e., you side with justice. You don't side with someone because even if he's your own family or your own faith. This man was an innocent man that had been blamed. So it was just a story that makes me think
we have another story.
This value was already been created at the time of the Prophet ﷺ.
We have another story from the great Khalif Umar bin Khattab, alayhi salam, that there was a Jew that claimed that a Muslim mate from an Muslim neighbor did to him, make some problems for him. And he came and he was eating his breakfast, the Khalif. And the Khalif didn't have anything of what to write a paper. So he took a stone and he wrote on a stone, he says, please conduct justice for the Jew. I have no time to investigate the whole thing, but justice for the Jew. He sent it through a soldier to a judge, and the judge conducted justice just for the Jew. That's another story which I don't know if you heard about it.
No, not that one I haven't. But I've heard of other similar ones. Yeah,
yes, that our tradition. So that's why the Muslims, is a part of the Muslim religion, was to protect the Jews. And that's why the Jews knew that when they're in Muslim countries, they've been protected. That's why it's the importance of Caliphate. If we see that the agreement of Sykes-Picot that divided the Arab countries with they drew just a straight line without any consideration about what sectarian and racial problems, and that's caused till now so many bloodshed and problems. Yes, I'm not talking about the Palestine that the British decided to give, unfortunately, Palestine for Zionist Jews on the head to establish a state on the head of majority of Palestinians that lived there for thousands of years, which is one of the biggest injustice. While the British knew that eventually it's going to end up with ethnic cleansing, the British government knew that the Zionists are arming themselves and preparing a professional army, while the Palestinians, we used to only harvest their dates and their zaytun, their olives.
Farmers mainly.
Yeah, what they're going to fight with potatoes or with dates? What they're going to drop with that? And in 1936, the British government has destroyed the military power which was prepared by the Palestinians. That's why 12 years after, they only had a small military power that called Jaysh al-Jihad al-Muqaddas under the command of Abdul Qadir al-Husseini.
Yeah,
but it was too small, too weak. Arab countries were hesitating to help. They came, and the Syrian army came to help a little bit. They refused to give ammunition for the Palestinians, to Jaysh al-Inqaz, to the Army of Salvation of Fawzi al-Kawchi. And unfortunately... And
they were all under the British authority anyway, because it was General Glubb who was the head of the Arab armies. So the general of the British forces was the one leading the defense of Palestine, which makes no sense.
Yeah, well,
because they're the ones who already...
The Jordanian army had
Glubb.
And he strictly didn't allow for the Jordanians to help with anything. They was just sitting there like a sitting ducks.
Exactly.
And even though the King Abdullah didn't want to conquer really Jerusalem. It was the army itself who did it without his permission.
Yeah, and the same happened with the Iraqi army in Jenin.
Yeah,
because my father lived.
Omar
Ali back.
They finished off the Zionist terrorist Haganah group over there.
That's right. That's correct.
They could have go straight
Haifa.
to Haifa and to cut off the whole Zionists and to take away the port from them. That they should not be able to bring supply of ammunition and arms.
Yeah.
So he was asking in the Rabbi, Aku awamir, la maku awamir, maku amir. He didn't give him. They didn't give him. That was another.
Because my father.
Shaitan. It was the devil was helping for the Zionists to create their land. The Syrian army, after the first ceasefire, they went back home. Like nothing happened. Like there's no war.
Yeah.
And
so they were abandoned. Basically, the Palestinians were abandoned.
What could have done? 4,000 mujahideen from a paramilitary group against 88,000 Zionist professional soldiers, with hundreds of Zionist Jews pilots that came with airplanes with B-17s.
Oh, really?
These pilots had an experience to bomb Germany.
These were the same pilots, were they? Okay.
Jewish Zionist pilots that came with B-17s, yes. And the Zionists didn't have any problem with export. But don't forget Russia. Soviet Union, with their weapons, have helped to the Zionist great state of Israel.
So the whole world essentially came there.
Stalin told to Czechoslovakia, just give all your arms which you have in your possession, give for the Zionists. The Zionist boat came, and they were filled. They had a problem how to take it out from the boats, from the Haifa port. They had to wait days. So many arms they had.
So, Rabbi, I just want to take you back to this point, because you mentioned the point you started talking about the caliphate, because there's a clip of you that's gone viral. It's gone very far.
From a Jewish aspect, from a Muslim aspect. From a Muslim aspect, it would be a bless for the Muslim themselves. They will be united. Their manpower, their natural resources will be used properly. It will be a dominant power, a superpower that the world will have to respect and to considerate with them. It will bring stability to the world, because there'll be no more sectarian and racial violence. Kurds with Shiites and Sunnis, all this will be evaporated. So it will be a big bless. There'll be no more bloodshed anymore. There'll be one army that everyone will serve there. And they will have outstanding relations with other kingdoms like China, Russia, America. And it will flourish economically. If you look at the Bet Umayyah, the 90 years of Bet Umayyah, it was flourishing in science, physics, chemistry, medicines, culture, philosophy, and religion. The Abbasids continued that tradition. You can see that today the Muslim states are not well educated. They're busy in fighting each other. They're busy to be sweet tooth for the United States, for the European countries. And unfortunately, many leaders, I'm not going to say names, but many Muslim leaders are only thinks about their benefits.
Of course.
And that's why they're not really interested to help the people. The Caliphate, every Caliph didn't live for himself. He lived for the Caliphate. He was trying to make everything that the Jews and Muslims, everyone should live with prosperity, economy. All the children will be educated. So it's a great thing. I don't understand why it's such a bad idea. Why people say I have a doubt about it. For us Jews, Caliphate will be a big bless. Freedom of religion, economy. We're going to flourish. We benefited from the Caliphate, from the Bet Umayyah, from the Abbasids, from the Spanish Caliphate. The Ottoman. Let's go to the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire just continued the tradition of the old Caliphate. They gave a lot. They gave the freedom of religion. They gave I don't know what. Everything was. Some rabbis, the censorship that was in Europe, yes, many rabbis shipped in and exported their books to be printed in Istanbul.
Oh, really?
Why? Because there they never had, no one heard about what censorship in by the Muslim countries. Blood libel, which we suffered every Monday and Thursday in Europe, no one heard about it.
What was that?
Blood libel means what we bake our bread in Pesach, before Pesach. We have to bake a special bread without any having. We just take flour with water and we bake it, because when we came out from Egypt, 3,300 years ago, we didn't have a time that the bread would grow like a regular bread. We had to we poured water.
No yeast, basically.
No yeast, basically. We right away put it into the oven.
Okay.
So that's one of the commandments that our Sayyidina Musa, our Prophet Moses, told us that we have to remember the Egypt, how we get out. We eat for 7 days. For 8 days, we eat this matzah, this bread. The Christians in Europe used to say, in this bread, you mix blood in. You take in a Christian child, you slaughter.
Really? Do they say that?
You divide his blood into bottles, and you send it for all the rabbis, all the Jewish engineers, all the Jewish rich people, and they buy these bottles, and they pour it into the matzah. So the Jews used to come stand by the bakery when we bake it. According to the Jewish religion, if I have a cut here on my lips, and it's bleeding, I have to wash it. I'm not allowed to drink it. If eggs, when we cook the eggs, we're not allowed to cook an egg when it's completely red. We have to open it to see if it has blood. If it has drop blood, it goes to the dustbin.
Okay.
The chickens, when we slaughter the chicken, we have to drain out this the blood with salt. No one drop blood has to be seen. And they tell us nothing less than that. They used to take children, Christian children, and slaughter them. Even the Pope used to give letters. Don't believe to this nonsense. The Jews it's very strict by Jews' blood, not to eat blood of animals.
It was just basically false
False
stories, accusations,
exactly.
just to
That's
cause
what
problems.
And that's what, that we used to drink white wine for our religious ceremonies because they used to say that the red wine is blood. So we had to say, the rabbi says, don't use red wine, only white wine. And that in the Muslim countries, there was never been one single blood libel. One blood libel was 180 years ago. Where? In Damascus. Who initiated it? The French ambassador. He was Catholic. He was anti-Semite.
Trying to cause problems there.
So censorship. Yeah. What about us is what we're going to enjoy from no censorship of our holy books. We're going to study the Torah. We're going to pray to Allah the whole day. We're going to learn the Talmud without any restrictions. Economy, we're going to be flourishing. We're going to pay the jizya. We're going to be happy to pay the jizya because we're going to receive protection and mercy. So why not? Why is there anything wrong with Caliphate? One strong, established authority that will secure peace in all, from Afghanistan to Morocco? What's wrong with it? Why? I don't know why the Muslims are not interested in it.
It's interesting, Rabbi, because what a lot of people do, they try and present Islam in a very different light. Like you said, there's propaganda. There's always an attempt to give a different narrative, different story. So I was making me think this past few days that people talk about, in Islam we have this rule for if someone steals, their hand is cut off. But there's very specific rules. For example, if they're stealing because of hunger, you don't cut the hand. If they steal during famine, there's no cutting the hand. There has to be witnesses. There's lots of rules. So it's not a common punishment that's...
it's not that you walk with a sword in the street.
Exactly. There's a proper rule. But it made me think, imagine in Gaza how many children amputees there are. Thousands.
It's not only thousands. It's the biggest
crazy, right?
It's the biggest number of amputated children, women and men.
In the entire world, I think.
In the world, there's no such person in such a dense place with so many people was blinded, deaf. And what about the psychological problem?
So imagine that's something like this, which is amputees. No one's talking about that, but they want to talk about a punishment for a criminal.
Exactly.
And also,
it's a normal thing to bomb a 10-story building in Gaza.
Exactly.
The whole concrete will crash down on the head of children and women and babies.
Yeah.
That's a normal thing.
So, but this is what is, Rabbi. People need to be more brave and more courageous and speak about their religion without feeling intimidation. Because as you said, look at the history. The history is not one where people were being mistreated. There was a proper system where people had justice. So I think this is really important, people to have confidence in Islam being able to solve problems.
Unfortunately, the Islam is being demonized today to such a way that some Muslims are ashamed that they're Muslims.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Because the Zionists are standing behind it, because they want that in order to justify the conquest of Palestine, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, the destruction of the Palestinian culture and religion, you have to come with a reason why you do it. Why you do such a genocide? Why are you doing such a Holocaust? So if you come in and you demonize the Muslims as a radical murderers, so everyone understands that with murders you have to deal with a murder like as a murder. But so that's why they're trying to bury the shared history, the rich history that the Muslim brought to the world, and the way how to behave to Jews. That has to be buried under the carpet. And then you have to come to the whole time, you have to propagandize in the newspapers. And if you try to even to bring evidence for Jews, even if it's the Zionist media or British media, or American media, that the Muslim history was great for the Jews, they'll tell you, oh, thank you very much for being here.
Be quiet.
No, go
away.
Yeah.
So, Rabbi, I wanted to move on to another point which we spoke about as well, but maybe if you can elaborate. The Gaza is a population of just over 2 million people, mainly Muslim. There's a small Christian population there as well. And the Muslim population in the world, they say, is up to potentially 2 billion. How is it that this population of 2 million Muslims has been left by a number of 1,000 times greater Muslims around the world to face this genocide alone?
Unfortunately, some of the Muslim leaders, not all. We see that Yemen stand up for the rights of the Palestinians. We saw Iran standing up for the rights of the Palestinians, but it's not enough, because many Muslim leaders are either they're scared of the Zionists, either they cooperate with the Zionists. I know about Muslim country, I'm not going to say the name, that they have the boots, the military boots that the Zionists used to kick on and to step on the head of children and beating up women and raping them in jails, and kicking out any Palestinian walks in the street and break his bones with his boots. It's been produced in Muslim country. Would you believe it?
Really?
I'll tell it to you after the interview. Who is it?
If it's for you, I don't mind exposing them. I don't mind if you want to mention it. It's absolutely fine.
No, I don't. I don't want to defy specifically a government.
Because to be honest, they're all, as you say, all of them.
I'm an exiled Jew. I'm saying the truth, but I don't try not to hurt, not to blast the truth against this leader. You're a traitor, even though that you talk so much that you're anti-Zionist. You with your son are helping and producing even arms for the Zionists. And so the Muslim leader has to have more compassion and brotherhood to their brothers in Gaza. It's unbelievable that 2.3 million people have been slaughtered, starved to death, without food, without water, without any medicines. There's more people dying now in sickness in Gaza and relatively even more than the bombs, because there's no medicines. Every now blood pressure, every cancer, every heart disease, the person has been on his way to die because there's nothing to deal with. 17 hospitals were completely destroyed, out of service. Now we're talking about the last heroic hospital, Kamal Adwan in Bet Lahia. The doctors refused to get out of there, but the drones are shooting at the hospital. The drones were the helicopters shooting at the hospital. There's snipers all over the place that they're sniping the hospital. Nurses that going out to receive sick, but to receive wounded, been shot to death.
Yeah, I mean, there's pictures coming out and the images and videos every day.
It reminds me what's the German used to bomb Jewish hospitals in Warsaw and Poland. They used to go with the Stuka dive bombing and to blow up a whole hospital. 80 Jewish children and women and babies were killed. But what about the Palestinians? They're not babies. They not deserve to live. Allah created us. Allah created them.
Of course.
According to us, we're not allowed to have a state in Palestine. Not anywhere in the world. We have to show them thank you. They've opened what Omar ibn Khattab when he released Palestine from the Byzantine Empire. After the Jews for 550 years were not allowed to be in. As long as the Byzantine kingdom were there, they said the Jew can be here only if he's going to become Christian. And he opened the doors for the Jews, and he allowed them, gave them again freedom of religion, everything under what protection, with mercy of the Muslim Caliphate. When the Crusaders captured Palestine for 88 years, what did they do with the Jews? First of all, they killed the Muslims. From the Al-Aqsa Mosque came out a river of blood that came to the knees. From the thousands of Muslims that were gathering there that were slaughtered. What about the Jews? 300 Jews. The Christians pushed them into the synagogue, and they burned them alive. There was no one Jew to find in all Palestine for 88 years. Then came Al-Khalif Nur ad-Din al-Zanki. He started the fight, to release Palestine. He didn't release Palestine, actually, but he started the fight to release Palestine. And his adopted son, Al-Nasir Yusuf Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, the founder of the Caliphate of Ayyub. He's the one who cancelled the Caliphate of Fatimi Caliphate, the Shiite Caliphate in Egypt. And he made the one big Caliphate, Libya, Egypt, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, and Palestine. And he released Palestine in 1187. His personal doctor was the Maimonides, a Jewish doctor, which was one of the biggest rabbis ours. And he was asking kindly, is the Jews allowed to come back? He looked at him with a smile and said to him, yes, I'm going to give a fatwa allowing the Jews to come back. And they can build their Jewish institution for full religious rights.
So it's interesting, the history of Palestine, since the time of Umar al-Khattab anhu till now, has had two periods where it has not been under Islamic rule. And both those periods have been stained with blood.
Exactly. And every time when the Ottoman Empire took Palestine, Judaism were flourishing back again. Until this cursed day that the Ottoman Empire was dismantled, unfortunately. Yeah. We, the Jews, always, that's what you was asking me. Why there is many Jews now? There's a whole movement among Jews, secular and non-secular, that understand that it was a mistake, that was a big mistake to create State of Israel, and a big mistake, and a big unfortunate that the Islamic Caliphate of the Ottoman Empire has been dismantled. Because as long as it kept the whole Middle East as one piece, Jews has been protected. There was no any the after the Damascus blood libel, the Caliph, the Sultan, the Turkish Sultan gave out a firman. Firman is like a fatwa. Firman in Turkish meant a fatwa.
Okay.
That there's no such thing as blood libel by the Muslim Caliphate. Any complaint of blood libel should not be accepted by a court. And the police and the army have to be strict, punish those who try to spread this lie. They were very quick to act, the Muslims.
Yeah.
What happened over here? There was a blood libel. Very nice. It will never happen anymore. And since then, it's never happened anymore.
That's very interesting.
And that's why I by myself, I would be very happy to see that the Turkish Empire will be reestablished in the Middle East. They will see, first of all, the end of bloodshed of Jews and non-Jews. The Palestinians will have the right to come back to Palestine, and that's one of the biggest injustice in the history. One of the biggest organized, vicious ethnic cleansing that ousted almost 1 million Palestinians, deprived them from their property and from their land. You have today 6.5 million Palestinians in the diaspora outside of Palestine. Very painful. They would like to come back to Palestine. What do they see? Now that they've been deprived, they see their brothers that left in Palestine being butchered and massacred and going through a genocide. It has to be fixed. The state of Israel has to be dismantled. Palestine has to be established as a Palestinian state. And I'll be very happy to see a Muslim caliphate again because of I will inspect it together why it should be like that. It would be just great for Jews and Muslims. And there's nothing wrong with that. Something which was so good and proved itself to be good, there's no reason why it shouldn't come back.
So, Rabbi, can I ask you about a little bit about your history? Because I know you were in Palestine you were born in the land of Palestine, and you were there until, I believe, about 20 years ago, or maybe a bit less than 20.
18 years ago.
So, can you tell me why you left Palestine?
Well, I when I was already young, I joined the Anti-Zionist movement because my parents always talked with me about how much injustice there is in Palestine for the Jews that came from Iraq and I started to feel hatred to them, and I started to see, and then I spoke with my parents about the Palestinians, and my parents told me, yes, there was an ethnic cleansing here. My father-in-law, he lived in Katamon. Katamon, it's a neighborhood, Palestinian neighborhood, that was conquered by the Zionists almost right by the last few days before the ceasefire. And they were completely, they deported the Palestinians from there. It's a rich neighborhood. You have palaces there. You have beautiful houses there. And my father-in-law lives there. And he told me, he said, no, all these houses, it's a gezel. Gezel means in Jewish meant theft.
Really?
I told him, by who? So there was Palestinian used to be there. He was as a boy. He used to work with electricity. He used to go with a guy which used to be invited by the Palestinians in Katamon, because my father-in-law was born in Palestine to a Syrian Jewish immigrants already that were there for 100 years before.
Okay, so they've been there a long time. Okay.
Yeah. So he used to go to the Arab neighborhoods to fix the electricity. Any Arab that used to build a house used to call them out to put all type of electricity a system in his house. So he used to tell me, I know it was a Palestinian neighborhood. It's a theft. They took it over. I told them, where else? Take a look at Lifta, by the entrance of Jerusalem. Lifta.
Oh, Lifta, yeah.
Lifta is an Arab village. Till now, you can almost smell the barbecue of the Palestinians that left after 76 years. You can see it's an Arab village. What about the castle? When you walk for the castle, you can see a mosque that turned to be a pub. They're not ashamed of themselves, these Zionists. They destroy the Palestinian people, kick them out, and
Caesarea.
Exactly.
Is that Caesarea or
no? Castelism by the entrance of Jerusalem.
I see. Because I think Caesarea has something similar, like
that's already upward to the north.
Yeah, but that's where my father came from.
The entrance of that was one of the main battles that the Palestinians were heroically fighting a huge, enormous force of the Zionist terror Haganah groups. And for all months, they were stopping them till they ran out of ammunition. That was the reason they lost the war. Because they were asking from the Syrian army munition, They were refused.
Oh, really?
The Arab armies didn't supply them. They did not even the Jordanian army, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So when I joined the anti-Zionist Jews, I started in demonstrations against the Jewish injustice which the Zionists are conducting, that trying to turn us to be a secular reform liberals, and that's what they turned millions of Jews like that, and it's easy to make them turn them to be Zionists. And I was arrested many times, not for long periods, but for short periods, a week, few days. I was beaten up there. I was starved. They for 30 hours many times didn't give me food, not even water. And then I started to associate with the Palestinians, and the Palestinian issue starts to be close to my heart. And then I started to go to visit Palestinians in their villages, in Ramallah, in the Muqata. I was by the 3 days mourning of Sayyid Abu Ammar, alayhi salam. It was so interesting that they were respecting me so much that I was standing in the line of those people that received the mourning, Gaza.
You were receiving the
Exactly. And when I went there was a Palestinian police officers escorting me with weapons. I told them there's no need. So no, not everyone knows that you're anti-Zionist. And I used to go to many places in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. I used to give interviews to Al-Quds, that's the newspaper. I used to give in Al Jazeera. But then the Zionists, the religious Zionists, the settlers started to target on me. And they're targeting any activist that do and trying to help the Palestinian cause.
Okay.
And I started to receive. I was arrested by the Zionist police. What are you doing with the Palestinian? I said, well, what? It's their land. It's not your land. You're not allowed to come back. Or here, you're not allowed to establish your land. I told it to the officer in his face. I slammed it in his face. I told him, you're not allowed to have your own country. It's not your country. It's Palestine. It belongs to them.
So how come the religious Jews who should know what the how come they've changed their position?
So the Zionists bought off rabbis, and they just when you buy off someone, yes, you have by the Muslim world also sheikhs which have been paid off in order to distort Islam. The same thing happened by Judaism. They said you have Zionist rabbis that have been well paid off. All their expenses the Zionists are paying them. You just have to provide us, like distorted sources in the Torah, in the Talmud, or in the Bible that give us the rights on this land. And they have a hard work because the 3 oaths that the Jews are not allowed to come make a mass immigration, create land in Palestine, and revolt against the Palestinians is written clearly in the Talmud. So they just said, they don't know what to say about it. I tell them, take a look. It's not your land. You're in exile. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to defy the Goyim. You're not allowed to the non-Jews. You're not allowed to revolt against them. And of course, you're not allowed to make ethnic cleansing and create a state here. It belongs to them. So they said, then they stop talking to you. Okay, it was nice time to meet you. They don't talk to you. So I saw that basically there's hundreds of anti-Zionist activist Jews, anti-Zionist activist Jewish that left Palestine, and one of them is me. I'm only one of hundreds. Every year, there's tens of people like me leave Palestine. They're trying to fight for justice for Palestine, but then the Zionists started to prosecute them.
Yeah. I mean, I saw in the beginning of the genocide there was some Jews who came out and demonstrated with Palestinian flags, and they beat them so badly in the streets. I remember seeing
this. But they do it when the Zionist police are making ambushes on them. When they capture someone with a Palestinian flag, they beat him up and they send him to jail. And that's what happened to me. So that's why I saw that there's no future, and I'm telling you till now, everyone knows, there's no future for anti-Zionist, pro-Palestinian Jews in Palestine. So they had to leave, and I left.
So going on from that question, Rabbi, there's a question that came up a few times with people I've discussed with. Given the fact that there is many Jews who feel that Zionism is linked to Judaism, they say that it's linked. So I think 80% of American Jews, 80% of British Jews, and even more say that they identify as Zionist, and they say that this is part of their faith. How should people view this argument, and how should it be challenged? Because ultimately, it's the two things are being shown as synonymous now. So if you start to try and do something for a pro-Palestinian cause, to say we need to stop the genocide, we need to account this Zionist entity, they say, it's just because you're anti-Semitic. It's just because you're anti-Semitic and you really hate Jews. And they try to make this argument. What is the best way of challenging that?
First of all, you have to divide between Zionism and Judaism. You have to tell them that Judaism is a religion. Jews have been identified by keeping the Torah. Yes, and according to Judaism, you're not allowed to have, as I said, state, not mass immigration, not to revolt against the non-Jews in Palestine, which was the indigenous Palestinians. Now, Zionist movement, it's a secular, liberal Zionist movement that wanted to solve the problem of the Jews in exile, gather them, and tell them that the solution that every people have country, military, and a language, it should be a good solution for us. But it's not a good solution, as you see that it's bringing to bloodshed, and especially when you create a land on the head of someone who lives there already, which possess the land. That's not the Palestinians. If we show, and I talked to a lot of such Zionist Jews and tell them, listen, Jews lived with mercy, and they had a great time in exile under the Muslims. What was so wrong with this exile that you have to get out of the exile, conquer the country without any permission, kick out the Palestinians, make them your arch enemy? Tell them, the Zionist movement has no source of any evidence from the Torah. The Torah are forbidden Zionism. Zionism is a racist, nationalist, Zionist Jewish movement that has any source to be supported from the Torah. The Torah are completely forbidden. All the rabbis till the Second World War, they're saying that this movement will bring the destruction of the Jewish people. And we have to tell to the non-Jews that this movement has nothing to do with real Judaism and not with the Jewish people. So today we can see thousands of secular Jews are demonstrating for Palestine. Do you know that?
Well, there are many people who have started to join that call.
Yeah. Why? Because they see that something is wrong over here, that the Zionist movement, yes, had created so many problems for the Jews. They don't understand how deep is that. But according to the Torah, taking out all the Jews from exile with terror methods, as we mentioned that, force them into Palestine and force them to go to fight other people that the land belonged to them. That will bring an endless, relentless bloodshed, as we see. The solution is to tell them, first of all, you have to keep the Torah. Take a look what's written in the Talmud, that you're not allowed to have your own state. You have to remain in exile. You have to live with peace with the non-Jews. Take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch is a daily law book of the Jews. There it's written you have to make charity with non-Jews. You have to visit their sick people. And you have to bury them, when they die, they don't have, a non-Jew cannot bury them. You have to give them a respected burial. And that's what we used to behave. It was a mutual relationship. Zionists come in and just erase the whole thing. Says, no, you don't have to have any consideration with non-Jews. You have to create your country with a police force, with a military power, expanding. Yes, and that's the only solution to exist. Take a look. So many problems. So many people were dying in the wars, and that has no end to it. And many people open their eyes. If we come and tell them that Judaism is a religion, our Jewish just only can be called a Jew, not because he wore a gun and he fight the Palestinian. He's not a Jew then. If he doesn't keep Shabbat, the Saturday, he's not a Jew. Jew is considered a Jew only when he keeps the Torah, and the Torah says you have to be under the control of the Palestinian people if you want to live in Palestine as an individual.
Yeah. Are you seeing a change in people that you're discussing with?
Yes. Many people open their eyes. A big Zionist, yes, that what they see, I tell them, don't you see the mistake? Don't you see that this racist nationalist movement that created itself 130 years ago are leading the Jewish people into destruction? Don't you see that people who follow the Torah and lived peacefully, with harmony, with brotherhood with the non-Jews for thousands of years, survived? And now you can see that they, with their jurisdiction on this illegal jurisdiction on Palestine, bringing the Jewish people to the destruction. They're gathering the Jews, but they're controlling governments, like the United States government is completely under control of the Zionists. All the resources, natural resources, all weapons, all money that you have in America goes to finance this illegal entity that brings so much hatred on Jews, because they're trying to speak behalf of all Jews in the world.
Yeah.
And in order that every Jew that walks in the street will be targeted, that he's at the address, he's part of the genocide, he's conducting the genocide in Gaza, the ethnic cleansing in East Jerusalem, the ethnic cleansing and the genocide in the West Bank. By the way, they started to do what they're doing in the West Bank, in the Gaza. They would like to implement it and to adapt it into the West Bank.
Yeah.
I'm calling to the Muslim leaders, please remove your thought about benefits, about your own favors. Please be united with more states. Stand up for the rights of the Palestinians. We need a peacekeeping force, Muslim peacekeeping force. It's very easy to assemble it. The Pakistani army, the Turkish army, Algerian army, Egyptian army, they are very powerful armies. You can easily ship in 50,000 soldiers with tens of boats full of food, clean water, medicines, to save this 2.3. It's not anymore 2.3. It's only 2 million now. Because we're talking about 70,000 people that for sure were killed from bombs. How many people were killed by disease? We don't know. So many. How many people starved to death? We don't know, but so many. How many people they didn't take out from under the rubble? Tens of thousands. Why? Because the civil defense is being annihilated. They have no cranes, no bulldozers. They have to pull out people with their hands. How many people you can pull out? How can you sleep, dear Muslim leaders, at night when you see that people being annihilated? Such a good people. They did only good for Jews. I can't sleep at night because of the suffer of the Palestinians. Because people that call themselves Jews conducting the genocide, the same Holocaust that was in the Second World War, the same method, starvation, killing people that should be deprived of medicines, no food, no clean water. That's what the Nazis did to the Jews. How can people who call themselves so-called Jews? Jews is a religion of mercy. Mercy, yes, of non-Jews, as I mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch, that people are supposed to do charity, visiting sick non-Jew people, and give them a respected burial. I'm asking you, please, put aside all your dispute, to be unified, to help the people of Gaza to be saved from annihilation, to be saved from Holocaust. It needed to be sent a peacekeeping force, kick out the hell out the Zionist terror squads from there, show them that there's not their place. It's not their place in all over Palestine. They have no right to rule in ancient Palestine. But now to save these 2 million people that left over, to save them from dying from thirst, hunger, and bombs. Please. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rabbi. I hope that message gets out there to the people who have the influence to do something. One of the things that a number of very prominent anti-Zionist Jews have come out saying recently, something that you've mentioned, that the actual region of the Muslim world, especially the Middle East, it's a very artificial situation. All these lands divided by the Sykes-Picot agreement, where they were naturally united and together and powerful. Now they become weak and, very divided. A lot of people are now saying we need to imagine a new future, one where we don't actually look at the nation state model as the way forward. Why do you think this is gaining so much traction even amongst Jews? I know you mentioned it before, but do you see a future where people can aspire to a more united future under a kind of a united Islamic authority?
Yes, because what happened? This idea is supposed to be mainly inspected by Muslims. Why Jews mention it?
It's an interesting point.
It must be that it was a good idea. It was a good thing. It's have its own recommendations, have its own history. When Jews looking now about this, fine, Zionist state bring only destruction for Jews and Muslims. Zionists bring terrorism, fear, hunger, theft, ethnic cleansing, and so many troubles for these good Muslims and for the Jews as well. It's endangering the Jews because Jews were peacefully lived with the Muslims. So people think about, what about another solution? So let's inspect the history and say, oh, congratulations.
We've come to
the Caliphate. They come to the final conclusion. Caliphate. As the Muslims will have one rule from Morocco to Afghanistan, then Jews will benefit from it, and the Muslims will benefit from it. The whole world will benefit from it. So that's why even secular Jews are coming to this conclusion. And many people come to the conclusion when they inspect, they're only for a second that they will inspect the history, they say, yeah, that's the only solution. There's no other solution.
Yeah.
And we pray that the caliphate would be established. And we pray to the day that the God will reveal his kingdom all over the world, and all the people will serve one God together peacefully, harmony, with brotherhood, without bloodshed.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So thank you very much. On that, we'll call it a day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.